I don't know about y'all, but I love me a good market pullback. Why? Because it gives us the opportunity to capitalize on all of the information and the research that we gathered over the last few months. Everything has been very rocky recently, guys, coming off of the election, the inauguration, and everything else that Trump has done in his first 90 or 100 or so days. But what I've come to learn after being in this market 5.5 years now is you want to look for the assets that continuously show price performance, not necessarily just looking for the 5 or the 10 or the 15x. You want to be able to look back at an asset's price history and see consistent peaks. Okay? Crypto space has matured to that point, I believe, especially if we're talking about assets like the XGC network, who just teamed up with Utila, which is another RWA play for the XGC network, or in the case of Stellar Lumens, who was just added to Rain's card network, which is supported by Visa. And then on the other side of the globe, we have Algorand, who has just picked up a new RWA product themselves from a German firm called Midas. Hopefully, they got the touch now. And then on top of that, guys, perhaps the biggest news of the week or last week or so, Circle. They are going IPO. And unlike when Coinbase did this a few years ago, guys, I know how we can all get involved with that one. So we got a lot to talk about. If you're new, I need to welcome you to the DHN Crypto Podcast. My name is Wade. I've been in the space since 2019 and I've researched a boatload of assets. But the number one reason I run this show is to share all that knowledge with you. All I'm asking in return, if you find value, hit that subscribe button. I want to thank all 55,583 as of time of recording subscribers to this channel. We're halfway to our goal of 100,000, but even if we don't hit it before the year is out, I'm definitely appreciative of each and every one of you. I got a little bit of a pushback from the XRP segment a couple days ago, but that's okay. Had some people unsubscribe. That just means they didn't see the same vision that we did. And that also means they're not going to be able to take advantage of educational materials such as these, starting with the new financial system master sheet. Guys, listen, the assets listed here are networks we have covered extensively over the last 5.5 years. I put together this sheet of organizations so that way when you begin your crypto research, you know exactly which names to follow. This pairs well with a new piece of material that I created, the DHN 100. This is a reference sheet that points you in the right direction of the top 100 utility driven networks in this market. Like I said, after 5.5 years, I've gotten a chance to truly observe which assets in this market have shown continuous progress, continuous advancements towards creating real world value with blockchain. And next to that, it's important to have your fundamental knowledge. That's why I created Blockmaster. This is the educational piece, the operational side to blockchain. It'll give you concepts and ideas to help you understand the mechanics of these networks and the why behind these networks. So, you can access all of these documents, guys, in the description under this video, as well as the pinned comment. Now, a couple other ways to support the channel. Of course, we have Robinhood, which, spoiler alert, is going to be the way that we capitalize on this circle move. And then outside of that, of course, you guys see it all the time. I am an affiliate partner with Upholds, US based exchange. They're SOC2 compliant. They got their reserves publicly listed. They've been around for years, and I've been a customer since 2019. All of their financial tools will dramatically improve your investing game. I'll just put it that way. So, again, links to these resources will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. Now, let's get into the show, guys. First topic we're going to be talking about is Utila, their new integration with the XDC network. This is another secure method to manage real world assets. I wanted to make sure that I hit on that precisely because when you look at the world of RWAs for the XDC network, it's increasing rapidly. I remember when we were just tracking what was that? The USDY, courtesy of Yield Tech, that was also managed by BlackRock. We were only able to see that. Now, when you look at RWA.xyz and you search XDC network, you see a pretty decent gallery of RWA products. So, props to the XDC network, props to the builders on the network for putting this together. And if we dive deeper into this integration, we discover that it's going to unlock secure custody of XDC assets using Utila's non-custodial MPC-based wallet. They're going to implement role-based access and granular policy enforcement across users and teams. That sounds a lot like KYC, AML, so that's good. Automate treasury workflows, token operations, and transfers on XDC, and connect to the XDC network from Utila via a customizable EVM RPC for maximum control. So as you can tell by this, XDC network is going to be deeply embedded into this Utila software. And I took a few minutes to look at Utila. It's a fairly younger company, but they're already going in the right direction. And overall, what this is another RWA play for the XDC network. Before we take a look at Utila, I want to show you this here. This is a collection of the top 4 RWA players for the XDC network that are currently on the network right now. Comtech Gold is the longest standing RWA partner for the XDC network, as far as I'm concerned. They specialize in the tokenization of gold bullion. They have actual gold bars verified in physical vaults all over the world. They actually received a Shahara compliance certificate in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So that gave them clearance in Dubai. They got backing from the multi commodities center out there. So Comtech Gold is not a game. And they have been utilizing the XDC network efficiently going on 5 years now, just about. And then we got Plug and Play. Plug and Play connects the XDC network to the emerging Web3 economy in India. There is an accelerator out there called T-Hub, which also sponsors XDC network innovation, developer, what do they call those? The boot camps. There's something that start hackathon. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But they support a lot of those things. And through those hackathons, guys, you have to understand that's almost like when you take a product and you want to demo it to a group of people, think tanks, things like that. 9 times out of 10, if the product is hitting, that product will go to market. So what we really want to look for in a network, no matter which one you're following, is an effective mechanism for bringing in talent. That is what Plug and Play is for the XDC network, on top of their own technology that they're connecting to XDC. So that's a bonus. And then after that, you have Securitize, the OG, managing all types of institutional assets. As a matter of fact, they just made headlines a few days ago. They're launching another RWA product courtesy of BlackRock. I need to double check that. But in the case of Securitize and XDC, another major W there. And speaking of BlackRock, lastly, we have Yield Tech, which provided the USDY token that we were initially tracking. This goes back as far as 2023. So on top of that, you now know that the XDC network has been in the RWA game since the beginning. And as more people get interested in RWAs, they're going to see who was here first. Telling you guys, we are in a whole different era when it comes to this blockchain space. I'm telling you, all of those, the tribalistic energy, the conflict, it ain't gonna last no more. It's not, because what I'm also getting and seeing when I do my research is these companies, guys, they're not coming in looking to work with one asset. They're not. They're coming in looking for ways to make use of multiple chains. Because this is the easiest point to make, we will see a point in time where one business is making use of both the XRP ledger and Stellar's blockchain. Why? Because they'll have banking, corporate, high value clients, and they'll also have probably 600,000 to 700,000 retail customers that also makes use of their platform. And that is perfectly fine. I expect multiple businesses to take that same model. JP Morgan is another example with what they did with Chainlink and Ondo. This is a multi-chain world that we live in. And the sooner certain people realize that, the better we'll be. All right. So I looked into Utila for a little bit, guys. Young company, but they are headed in the right direction. Looking at some of their blogs, their documentation, empowering stablecoin adoption with Utila's modular infrastructure. XDC will also be brought into this. And while reading into the infrastructure, I found another partner that Utila has that we have talked a lot about recently. Let me show you. So when you look at their modular infrastructure documentation, you go down to global on and off ramp networks, you will discover that through integrations with on and off ramp partners like Bridge.xyz, Stripe Company, users can convert stablecoins to fiat and vice versa with a few clicks. For example, USDC balance can be off ramped to a linked bank account. Conversely, a fiat deposit can be on ramped to stablecoins in Utila. So when I read this, I immediately thought back to two stories that we have covered here on the channel this year. Number one being the moment I discovered the XDC's network official connection to USDC. The XDC network is a member of the Circle Alliance. The Circle Alliance members had first dibs on the new Circle payment network, which we will be talking about in a few moments. So there's that. Secondly, it also took me back to what we learned with Bridge, Stellar, and the Visa connection, or the Stripe connection. In Bridge's documentation, we see this on and off ramp architecture that they're describing. And we know that Bridge allows you to send regular fiat simply into a blockchain. That blockchain will then kick out your fiat into whatever other token that you want it to be. So if you got $100,000, you kick it into, for the sake of this conversation, the XDC network through Utila, and you want to get it to customers who are in Mexico, Brazil, and Canada. You now have a way to use the XDC network kind of as a middle layer and have it converted your initial 100K into these three different national currencies, and then do with what you please from there. This is where we're at with this technology, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm so fascinated. I would think we would want a multi-chain world, because traditional business will show us that competition makes champions. I can't wait for the competition phase to hit blockchain. We're in the community era, which is good. I think the community will always be around because it's such an important element to how these tokens accrue value. But we need to enter the competitive stage where we got not blockchains dueling each other, but blockchains essentially sharpening each other. You know, the iron sharpens iron concept. That's what I would like to see. But going further, guys, this is also another way, officially, that USDC is bridged to the XDC network, and it's thanks to our friends over at XSwap. XSwap has completed the integration of Circle's Bridge USDC standard on the XDC network. Bridge USDC enables seamless and secure transfers of USDC between XDC and USDC supported blockchains, including Ethereum and Arbitrum at launch. So this means, thanks to XSwap, we now live in a world where you can transfer USDC from XDC to ETH, from XDC to ARB, from XDC to Habar, from XDC to Algo, to XLM, to Excerpt, all over the place. Well, not XRP, not yet, which is another point I could have brought up the other day, but I'm not. I think that day will come. Circle knows what they're doing. I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with the Ripple denial in the first place. Because if USDC picks up the XRP ledger, it's game over. Okay, game over. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the ledger. Not at all. It is just as quick as Stellar's. I got a problem with them crazies. But we live in a world now, thanks to XSwap, USDC, where XDC can now compete with the other champions of the stablecoin world as it stands today. Your Solanas, your Trons, your Stellars. XDC will soon be in that conversation. So that's good to see, guys. This is absolutely a W for sure for the XDC network. But let's jump forward and talk a little bit about Circle. To that point, guys, we found out a couple of days ago they will be launching their IPO after, as Crypto Slate put it, denying speculation of sale to Ripple and Coinbase. I saw a comment on X. Someone went, "Why did they lie? Why did Ripple lie about buying Circle?" I'm like, man, you obviously haven't been here that long. This is the nature of the beast, baby. It's the nature of the beast. But now we know for sure that Circle will be going public. But the biggest question is, how can you get a part of it? All right. Now, I promise you, I'm not trying to plug an ad. That clip is next. But guys, Robinhood. Okay. I'm just spoiling for you. Robinhood, like I said, I'm gonna jump past this because I am gonna share that with you. But I got this email shortly after the news started to break out that Circle had confirmed it. I got this email from Robinhood. So simply put, if you join Robinhood, and you ain't even got to use my link, all right? I'm not an affiliate, not tied with them at all. I just use the app. So if you download Robinhood, okay? I believe though you do have to, let me make sure this is accurate. I do know that if you are a Robinhood customer, you've probably gotten this email as well. I know I get these emails because I've been on Robinhood for one since 2021, and two, I have certain options unlocked. Simply put though, if you have a Robinhood account and you set up the features to get access to IPOs early, that is your shot. And guys, as I'll explain to you when we cover this piece here, this is going to be a monumental history-making IPO. And I'm looking at it like we don't get these opportunities often. I missed coin. I really did. And I wanted to catch some of that because it hit the market at $83 a share. And by the end of the week, it was at $350. Circle is going to drop at $30, $35. Start requesting shares now. But let's jump back here
to withdraw cash using
to this clip, guys. That's Decaf founder, and what he's about to do.
Withdraw cash using the Decaf wallet. I'm going to show you how. So you just
the founder of the Decaf wallet.
You just click withdraw.
It's going to use some USDC, EuroC actually on the USDC network.
I'm going to withdraw 100 USDC.
And he's doing it at this local MoneyGram.
But you can just continue here. Now just choose my ID. I'll use my passport.
And I bring this up
send off the USDC
mainly
to MoneyGram.
to give you the
This is my reference
context,
number.
to
All I
show
need is
you
my ID to go, with this reference number to pick up
that
my
this
euros.
blockchain stuff is
And,
no longer
okay,
just
look up the
a game.
location closest to me here. So let's go pick up my cash. Here I am. Okay, and now I have my cash, my euros. I'm ready for Barcelona, thanks to MoneyGram.
So what we just saw was a setup where he's traveling, he's abroad, and he's in a different country, and he needs access to another currency. Thanks to MoneyGram and stablecoins like Circle and networks like Stellar, which Decaf uses, he was able to convert his local currency into, or his home currency into the local currency. And like he said, now he's ready for Barcelona. So the bigger that Circle gets, ladies and gentlemen, the bigger this industry gets. That's the way I'm seeing it. So I'm all over this Circle like IPO. And it's mainly Circle like, Facebook like IPO. And it's for this primary reason. I was reading this article here. This is CNBC, if you want to look it up. And Circle is getting ready to sell 25 million shares. Okay? And what makes this so interesting is that according to the data, the 65% of those are coming from the company. And then, or no, not the company, but shareholders. And then the remaining percentage is coming from the company. History is telling us the last company to do this was Facebook. And their IPO went absolutely nuts. Okay? So, I'm looking at this data and I'm saying, I have an opportunity, even with a little bit of money, to get a pretty nice bag here right around the time I believe that the crypto market is going to be tanking. I do think that because summers are tough, man. And I know I was bearish going into May and then we saw some green candles, but we only extended our all-time high by a couple grand, you know? So we'll definitely see how it goes, guys. I'm reporting on this mainly to make you aware of the opportunity here that we can capitalize on this IPO through Robinhood for one. And if we're able to, man, what we can do afterwards, like I'm definitely going to be adding Circle, CRCL, to my retirement accounts and just every month dropping money into Mr. Alaire's pockets because he's going to be kicking it back to me. I can't wait to see what earnings per share will be like. This is going to be great. But folks, to that point, we got to take a little break, pay a couple bills. But when we get back, we're going to be discussing this new integration, Rain, Stellar, and Visa. It's a new credit card, debit card, crypto debit card coming to the network, as well as I'm going to share with you the asset that has just landed on my radar. Stay tuned.
CPN is not a new front end. It's a rebuild. It's a new foundation. With CPN, companies can pay sellers in minutes, track every transaction from send to settle, eliminate hidden fees, onboard new markets without having to do a patchwork of payout partners, banking rails, compliance rules, and support scripts. We have PIX, we have UPI, SEPA, SPAY. 83 countries today have real-time payment systems, but there is no real cross-border real-time payment system today. That is what CPN is. CPN is a cross-border real-time payment system that will connect local real-time payment systems. The digital economy is always on. Now, finally, money can be too. Like Jeremy said, for email, what SMTP did for email, CPN is doing for money.
All right. So, welcome back, guys. We were talking about USDC Circle, them going public, how I think this is going to magnify the industry. I've been bringing this up for a number of months, is the point that because of the success of USDC, USDT, the public networks that support these networks will also be successful. One of those networks for Circle is Stellar Lumens. And a piece of news that truly shocked me over this week was a company by the name of Rain. Now, Rain is a card issuer for stablecoins, and they are part of Visa's Card Accelerate program. Now, this is very interesting because Visa does not extend the invitation to this program easily. I looked into Rain. They're moving a lot of money around. As of last count, I want to say around $35 billion. So that's a very good look. Now, Stellar, along with Solana and Tron, have now been added into this program. So what this is going to look like, and we have an example of their product I'm going to share with you in a few moments in Avalanche. But what this is going to do is essentially create a single debit card for an entire network. So imagine if you had one card that allowed you to use dApps on all the dApps on the Solana network, or all of the dApps on VeChain, right? Or all of the dApps on a crypto.com. To that point, that model I'm seeing is now picking up traction, that crypto debit card model. But as you can see, Rain expands support to Solana, Tron, and Stellar, enabling more partners to launch stablecoin powered programs. Now, this is a front end support similar to Utila and the XDC network, their collaboration. But what makes this stand out is Rain's relationship with Visa. You can see here, Rain is the only Visa principal member that allows partners to deploy and manage programs across multiple blockchains simultaneously. And this feature is coming right out of the box. So, as I've talked about before, we are now in a multi-chain world, folks. And the biggest of enterprises, the biggest of businesses aren't just looking to go directly to one chain. Think of it this way. People don't like the fact that Walmart has the ability to crush out mom and pop stores. We are in an industry that praises decentralization, yet they want all of the attention to be on one network. How does that work, guys? It's not going to work well. So again, this is another example of the new direction, the new appetite coming from enterprises. And I like the fact that Stellar has been wrapped up into this. Now, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into what Rain is going to offer. And we get this by taking a look at what they did for Avalanche last December. Avalanche went to Rain to set up their personal debit card for the Avalanche network, which is how I got the example that I got earlier. And you can see here how this works is, and it's very interesting, okay? And I'm definitely about to order one of these suckers. All right, I wanted to get the work out the way first, but I'm getting one today. But basically, if you're a crypto.com user, you're familiar with this, or a Coinbase customer, where you have your assets on your card and you can choose to spend from any asset that you're holding. Like with Coinbase, I know sometimes I'm able to spend from my Stellar balance or some VeChain on there, a little bit of Hedera, sometimes Solana. Other times I'll do one of those Coinbase earn things and I'll just use that, use them extra $2 or $3 for things. What this is for Avalanche is the same thing. But like I mentioned in that example earlier, you can pull from assets throughout the entire Avalanche ecosystem. And when you really dig into them, it's quite deep. Okay, just take account for the subnets, right, on Avalanche. But I find this concept to be absolutely fascinating because what would this mean in terms of savings, right? Think about it like this. You do have AVAX and you're holding, let's say you got a substantial amount of AVAX. And then the value of your AVAX goes up. Now you have extra dollar value to spend from. And if you continue to keep your Avalanche or whatever asset, then your value just continues to go up. It's almost like never running out of money in a sense, if you really think about it. Now, of course, market conditions have to be right, and you obviously have to start with a pretty substantial amount. But I could see that being the pool for the customer. When they figure out a way to explain to people that with this card, you can change your own finances. So what we're going to see now, thanks to Rain integrating networks like Stellar, Solana, and Tron, okay? Quite interesting. Very Tron, man. Something about it. But with them integrating these networks, what we'll start to see is setups like this on multiple networks. And with the way that Solana is going with these mobile phones, add a debit card. What? This will be a completely different game in 5 years, folks. Completely different ball game. We're focused on Stellar here. Think about it this way. One debit card that is compatible with all of the wallets on the Stellar network. Come on. Come on in there. I'm sipping the coffee. Hold on. One debit card that is compatible with all of the wallets on Stellar. That's what I'm seeing Rain is getting ready to do. Again, another W here. And when we really think about it, right? When we dig into the utilization, this is something that I love about crypto.com. They do these research reports every year because you guys got to understand crypto.com, they created this crypto debit card game. They created it and they mastered it before anyone else. If I'm not mistaken, Coinbase got the idea from crypto.com when crypto.com was called Monaco. There's a history lesson for you. Look at the MCO era for crypto.com. But crypto.com does these research reports on the expenditure, the spending being done with these crypto debit cards. As you can see, guys, people use these debit cards just like they use traditional debit or credit cards for the same things. And I remember because for whatever reason, my crypto.com account, it just closed. I don't know what happened, but I stopped using it once I discovered Uphold. That was that part. But I do remember using crypto.com's card quite frequently. And because you're able to get certain rewards in the form of cash back in certain assets, like I was able to get, this is 2021 here, I was able to get 1%, 1.5% CRO back off of my Netflix subscription. Are you serious? With my Coinbase card now, I'm able to get 1% back in either XLM, 2% in ETH, or 2% in Stellar. The numbers change depending on what month in the market conditions. But what I'm getting at here is instead of the traditional cashback method that you only get the dollar back, but that dollar sometimes doesn't take off your total purchase price, the crypto back rewards that you get through these cards, that reward increases in value. So when I go and spend my Coinbase card at Sam's Club and I get 3% back in XLM, that 3% gets added to my XLM balance. And the reward is making money. The rewards are making money. So it's because of that concept that definitely I'm all over crypto.com. If I haven't made it known, guys, I am preparing an Elite 8 for 2026. Guys, I'm ready to get back into the market. I'll admit to you, I haven't really been deep into the market because I've been taking my dollars and putting them back into this. If you haven't noticed, okay? But I'm ready to get back into the market. And crypto.com is definitely going to be one of them assets that I'm holding going forward. And it's because of that architecture. They set that up and they've mastered it. And I'm not seeing it anywhere else. So when you understand the reach and the depths of these crypto cards, you can understand why Rain's integration of Stellar, Solana, and Tron is a big win for all three of those networks. Big win for all three of those networks. Now, let's see what we have up next here. Yes, we're getting into the index. I did want to share this update with you. We usually cover this in the membership section, but this is an example of a topic that we were talking about, our portfolio rebalancing. What we have here, guys, is a snapshot of the index from this morning. You can see quant ratio or weighted allocation in the portfolio. This is the D20 crypto index, by the way. If you've been seeing me promote it on X, then you know what this is. We've been sharing this with the members. But quant's weight here is nearly at 6%. This is the top 5 on the left, and then we have the top 5 on the right. I mean, the bottom 5 on the right. What we would do in this particular situation is take the 5.9% and compare it to the 4.10 in XDC. Now, because our cost basis for this portfolio was $100,000, and currently our portfolio value is 100,500 or 100,000 1,500. Okay, that extra 1,500 or that extra 1,500 came from quant. So the math was pretty easy to do in this particular case. But what we would do here is take that extra 1% or so and roll it back into XDC. We would roll it back into the XDC network. And that is how we maintain a healthy portfolio. Now, yes, we could choose to take profits here. We could. But with our number being 5% and the ratio only getting up to 0.94 off of the 5, we know we don't really need to do anything dramatic at this point. We have the option to take that profit and beef up some of our weaker assets or our lighter assets. But if we're not seeing any crazy ratios of 7%, somewhere close. If one of these assets gets to the 8% range, yeah, we're taking profits off of that. We can take 2% off the top and then drop the 1% back into one of the lighter weighted assets. I'm so glad I put this together, guys, because this is how I'm crafting my portfolio going forward. This strategy, I can see how it can be very powerful. Now, excuse me, this is our index all-time profit against BTC. Again, as of this morning, guys. And yep, the big B won. The big B has struck again. Okay. But I get that because big Bitcoin is the market leader. And now we have two portfolios, two pieces of information, two sources of data that mathematically prove you need to buy Bitcoin. I mean, we can have our other altcoins, all right? I dig that, all right? I'm still 15% weighted in Stellar, all right? That's going to be my target for my portfolio, 15%, okay? But Bitcoin needs to be in your portfolio. That's just what it is, all right? Because this is for the index, but I also added the Elite 8 information. This Elite 8 portfolio, this is from 2023. We began tracking these assets. And like I told you, Solana is the most profitable asset in the market in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years. Despite what everybody wants to say about it, the numbers don't lie. But in this particular case, I did the math. Because we only have 8 assets, our allocation number, our magic number would be 12.5%. So in this particular case, you gosh darn right, we're going to take something off the top. If our number is 12.5%, Solana sitting at 28.9, then we got at least 10% to play with. Okay? So that is how, if you ask me, that is how I'll tell you to manage your portfolio. I'll tell you to first buy some Bitcoin, because mathematically we've proven that Bitcoin makes your portfolio stronger. And then the alts that you choose to go alongside Bitcoin, that's completely up to you. I'll point you to the DHN starter kit, where you'll see your 4 criteria for evaluating assets. And if your asset does not fall into that criteria, then I would, I don't need to tell you at that point, don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. But just wanted to drop this quick update on you guys, portfolio update. Hey guys, I got a quick message for you. Let's say you're looking to buy some crypto, like the ones mentioned in this video. Consider using our crypto exchange partner, Uphold. With Uphold, you get access to more than 200 crypto assets through its simple-to-use trading platform. Uphold has been around more than a decade, so it is a name you can trust. With over $2 billion in reserves and $44 billion in trading volume, I've yet to lose a trade on Uphold. To the more experienced investor out there, Uphold also has a line of precious metals and national currencies for more diversification. For me, I'm having fun using Uphold's baskets tool. Uphold lets us set aside a certain amount of money to invest in different sectors of crypto. With one click, you can diversify into the big 3, meme coins, or the financial assets like Hedera, Stellar, and XTC. But listen, crypto assets are very volatile, and it is always best to manage your risk and do your own research before using any platform. I recommend Uphold because before I was an affiliate, I was and still am a user. So if you use the link below, it helps support the channel. I want to thank you in advance. All right, folks, welcome back. Now I'm ready to share with you a new, well, not a new network, but Ondo. Ondo Finance has now landed on my radar, guys, and I want to share with you the reasons why. When it comes to RWAs, it really seems that Ondo is getting ready to take a very substantial lead, primarily for the fact that Ondo, their products seem to encompass the entirety of the RWA space. When you go to rwa.xyz, you will find out that a lot of the products that are connected to Ethereum are also running through Ondo. So I've been sitting back and observing Ondo for a few good months, been reading the headlines, watching the price movement. I'm seeing that it is starting to pull back a little bit, and that's perfectly fine, because now we have an opportunity to get involved. We have an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper. So the reason why I'm getting into Ondo Finance is because they're going to leverage, well, for one, they're the embodiment of the RWA market right now. Straight up. All the institutions, the big names, the banks, the players, they're looking at Ondo. And in addition to that, they are now launching their own chain, this Ondo chain. And when I see networks do this, folks, when I see networks pull this off, I'm very impressed. This means that they're eventually going to come up off of Ethereum, which may or may not have a positive impact on Ethereum. But what I think will happen is they'll have an Ethereum market, but then they'll have their own Ondo chain market, still accessing the same products, but much like what Ripple did with RLUSD, how some of it is minted on Ethereum and the rest is minted on the XRP ledger. That is what we'll see with different RWAs, where some will be minted on Ethereum and some will be minted on Ondo's chain. Will that also include, the token migration and all of that? Yes. We've seen that process play out recently in the market with Fetch AI. And who did they merge with? It was Fetch AI and Singularity, if I'm not mistaken, AGI, Singularity Network. But now they're called Artificial Superintelligence. Token really didn't change that much. Price of the token didn't really fluctuate that much. It's merely a migration process that happens in the background. So if I were to pick a win to jump into Ondo, I'm waiting for the market to pull back because I was looking at the price chart. I've seen Ondo get as low as 65 cents. So I would be waiting until we get a little bit closer to that range. If I'm not mistaken, as of this morning, we were a little bit above 85 cents. So I'm expecting a pretty substantial pullback in June that'll give us the opportunity to get in. But the main reason I want to get in is because I feel that Ondo is really leading this charge when it comes to RWAs. Now, don't get me wrong. I recognize the 300 to 400 million tokenized stock on Algo. I know about the multiple millions that Franklin Templeton has tokenized on Stellar. I know that. But I got my Stellar bag. I have my Algo bag. You reach a certain point where you can stretch out a little bit. You want to always look out for new plays to make because the profit margin is often larger. So I'm looking at Ondo to make a play. And it's mainly because of the presence that they have in the RWA sector and the introduction of this Ondo chain. And then if you take a look at RWA.xyz, you can see here, guys, total value on RWAs on Ondo, 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion. This OUSG and USDY, I am seeing these products pop up on multiple chains. As it stands right now, let me see, I believe we do have that. Yeah. The majority of it is on Ethereum. 19.5% on Solana. We have some on Sui, some on Aptos, Polygon. These are very decent networks, especially Polygon. They've been around since the beginning. Well, they haven't recorded any yet, but they're working with Polygon, which shows that they're beginning to expand down the list a little bit when it comes to the pantheon of Web3 projects, because you have to start with your Ethereum, Solana, Aptos, and Sui. Why would I say that? Well, you have Ethereum as the OG. You got Solana as the Patrick Mahomes. He's the Patrick Mahomes. Solana is the Patrick Mahomes of crypto because Solana is so dang good, but don't nobody like it, okay? And then you move to Sui and Aptos, and I'm surprised I haven't seen Near Protocol on here, but it'll happen. But I bring those up because of the programming languages that these networks use. Sui and Aptos use the Move programming language, and that is already proving to be just as efficient in developing large-scale blockchain networks. Move, the programming language, that's the same one that was about to be embedded into Facebook's blockchain that they were creating a few years ago called Libra, and then rebranded into Diem. So I like the reach here. I like the spread for Ondo, guys. And then, of course, we discovered recently that Ondo, Chainlink, JP Morgan. Okay. This will not only involve RWAs, but the movement of stablecoins between banks like JP Morgan and whoever their partners will be. Excuse me. So it was really that when I read it, I looked at Ondo and I said, okay, impressed. Very impressed by what you're kicking out here, Ondo chain. But then it was the story that made me start digging into Ondo. And then I discovered that they added a particular person to their leadership. And this sealed the deal for me. Patrick McHenry joins Ondo Finance as vice chairman, former U.S. representative, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. Guys, McHenry is not a joke. When it came to, as you can see here, early blockchain related legislation like FIT 21 and other stablecoin bills, as well as Bitcoin Reserve Acts, this is the guy in the room. So if Ondo is bringing McHenry in as a leader, this is someone that I can trust. And that's very important in this space full of people that you can't. Just to emphasize here, I'm going to read this description to you. Chairman McHenry brings decades of experience shaping financial policy, including leading the bipartisan passing of the Fit for 21st Century Act in the House, as well as serving as Speaker pro tempore of the House in 2023, and will play a pivotal role in enhancing Ondo's government relations, strategy, regulatory engagement, and thought leadership in the rapidly growing tokenized securities sector. His appointment highlights Ondo's dedication to driving U.S.-led innovation in the digital asset space. So, like I said, when I saw that McHenry was involved, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I was definitely locked in. I was definitely locked in at that point. So, Ondo Finance, a little bit under $1 right now. It has my attention. It is on my radar. And once the market makes a significant pullback, I'm definitely going to make a play. Definitely going to make a play. It's surely, I want you to know, this is surely a long-term move. I'm not getting into Ondo expecting a quick turnaround. I'm genuinely considering it for the Elite 8 for 2026, 2025, 2026. Because it's the sector of tokenized securities that it's connected to that has staying power. So that's perfectly suited for a long-term hold. Next to Stellar, Ondo as an institutional play. Guys, I'm telling you, that's why I start on these lists so early, because it is so hard to break it all down to 8. To 8. I put out a vote a couple of years back when we started this. Should it be 8 or 11? You guys picked 8. Thanks. Thanks for that, guys. Hey guys, I got a quick message for you. Let's say you're looking to buy some crypto, like the ones mentioned in this video. Consider using our crypto exchange partner, Uphold. With Uphold, you get access to more than 200 crypto assets through its simple-to-use trading platform. Uphold has been around more than a decade, so it is a name you can trust. With over $2 billion in reserves and $44 billion in trading volume, I've yet to lose a trade on Uphold. To the more experienced investor out there, Uphold also has a line of precious metals and national currencies for more diversification. For me, I'm having fun using Uphold's Baskets tool. Uphold lets us set aside a certain amount of money to invest in different sectors of crypto. With one click, you can diversify into the big 3, meme coins, or the financial assets like Hedera, Stellar, and XTC. But listen, crypto assets are very volatile, and it is always best to manage your risk and do your own research before using any platform. I recommend Uphold because before I was an affiliate, I was and still am a user. So if you use the link below, it helps support the channel. I want to thank you in advance. So let's cap off today's show with some news from the Algorand ecosystem. German tokenization platform Midas launches MT Bill on Algorand. Do they got the touch? The joke was not funny. But courtesy of the Algorand Foundation, Midas RWA, a fully regulated German tokenization platform, has launched the MT Bill token on Algorand. It's the first non-EVM launch for the token. MT Bill is a tokenized certificate referencing short-term U.S. Treasury ETFs available to retail investors across Europe. They won't even let me look at the website. That's how serious they are about that. Can't wait for the day where us in the U.S. are able to move in on products like this. But I'm going to finish this out because as I was looking into this, I came across a story that added pretty interesting perspective to this. The redemption value is based on the liquidation proceeds of a reference basket composed of ETFs such as BlackRock's IPO and Build. However, unlike the Build Fund, which requires a minimum investment of $5 million, MT Bill is structured to allow broader access to short duration U.S. Treasury exposure. No minimum investment required. So I truly like that aspect. And it kind of brings everything full circle because when I was looking into this, I stumbled across a story where the short of it is this. The reason why U.S. investors, we typically can't get access to this is because of the wide variety of financial products that we already have access to. It plays a large role. In places like Europe, the UK, India, Australia, there's another one, they don't have the same access to the financial tools that we have access to. Yet again, another example of how DLT blockchain networks like Algorand are helping put products out there that have real world value, that allow people to do something that they did not have the ability to do before. You guys probably know by now, thanks to the Algorand Masterclass, Algo has a very special spot in my portfolio. It really does. It really does. Let's keep digging into this, guys, because in the form that this is going to take shape in, it's going to be called Liquid Yield Token. Now, I read the documentation for Midas explaining these liquid yield tokens, and I also discovered too, his name is, I have it here, Dennis Dinkelmeyer, guy who created Midas, used to work for Goldman. That one, Goldman Sachs. So that was pretty interesting. It's not often that you come across a protocol with such backing. Like I said, I've explored so many different assets. I've seen the best setups and the worst setups. Trust me. So seeing that, names like Goldman, and as you can see here, high quality financial partners like BlackRock, this is a good play for the Algorand ecosystem. But the point I was getting to about the documentation and how these liquid yield tokens work, they essentially operate not as a stable dollar type asset, but the value of the token is based on the performance of the underlying ETF. So they mentioned in that press release that they mentioned BlackRock's Build Fund, right? So the yield token that will be available on Algorand will be backed by the performance of the Build Fund. So as the Build Fund continues to progress, the value of these yield tokens will increase in value. Now, of course, as it stands, us here in the US, we can't, tap into this. So I didn't get a chance to take a look at what the interface is like, but I can imagine soon we'll start seeing numbers pop up on RWA.xyz right there next to EXOD, which is the tokenized version of Exodus stock that also runs on the Algorand blockchain. Now, this is definitely a win for the Algorand network. And developments like this really show you just how early we are, because this story was an example of a builder creating something on blockchain that gives access to a group of people. This is still the early stage things that blockchain can do, providing a secondary ledger of account that people who previously didn't have access to the information that was on this ledger, they can now see it. They can benefit from it. That's what we saw in the collaboration with Midas and Algorand. Now, the year for Algorand, okay, granted, it ain't been pretty. Now, however, if you would have gotten in September of last year under 18 cent, it would have came out okay. It would have came out pretty well. But with Algorand and other assets like it, I always fall back on this particular idea, principle, if you want to call it that. The people behind the scenes, the builders, regardless of the price action, they still building. They will still build. And when I took that Algorand masterclass, that was reinforced concretely to me. Solid now. So that really changes my perspective. I'm looking at this price chart, and yeah, a moon boy would be like, this is terrible. But this reminds me of early Amazon. Just remember how long that took. I don't know about you guys, but I'm willing to sit here for the long haul. So with that, guys, like I said, great news for the Algorand ecosystem. And if you want to get deeper into the Algorand network, you got to check out your new financial system master sheet. As you can see here, we have a list of organizations that are closely tied to the Algorand network. If you want to dig deeper into your research, these are the perfect places to start. And then, of course, Algorand is listed in the top 100 utility-driven blockchain networks. And Blockmaster, this is your fundamental piece of information. So that way, when you do see and explore these relationships and partnerships that Algorand has and other networks like Stellar, XDC, you know about the core components thanks to Blockmaster. And then, of course, Robinhood, as well as Uphold, guys, extra ways to support the channel. Links to these will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment. With that, that's the show for today. Again, enjoy your weekend, guys. We're going to try to do this 3 times a week. Monday is going to be our next show. We're going to see what unfolds over the weekend. We're actually getting a lot of positive news across the board. So, I'm geeked. With that, my name is Wade, and y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.